Welcome to the Spiritual Journey Book Club. We can develop our spirituality in different ways, such as meditation and mindfulness. But another wonderful way to explore our spirituality is to read inspiring books written by inspiring authors. And the Spiritual Journey Book Club has been created to encourage us to do just that. As each month, we discover a new book. The words used in the presentation are the words of the author, and this presentation is intended to highlight the spiritual wisdom of each book so as to help you on your own spiritual journey. And let's start with a few words about the author. Tonight we are reviewing a book by James Redfield, who was born on the 19th of March 1950 near Birmingham, Alabama, USA. From an early age, he was motivated by a need for clarity about spiritual matters. Brought up in a Methodist church that was loving and community-oriented, he was nevertheless frustrated by a lack of answers to his questions about the true nature of spiritual experience. As a young man, he studied Eastern philosophies, including Taoism and Zen, while majoring in sociology at Auburn University. He later received a master's degree in counseling and spent more than 15 years as a therapist to abused adolescents. During this time, he was drawn into the human potential movement and turned to it for theories about intuitions and psychic phenomena that would help his troubled clients. All along, Redfield was forming ideas that would eventually find their way into the Celestine prophecy. In 1989, he quit his job as a therapist to write full-time, synthesizing his interest in interactive psychology, Eastern and Western philosophy, science, futurism, ecology, history, and mysticism. James is deeply involved in saving America's last wilderness areas. He has lobbied officially and met socially with senators and representatives to promote the act to save America's forests. In early 1999, James Redfield became involved with the Global Renaissance Alliance, GRA, an organization founded by Marianne Williamson and Neil Donald Walsh. GRA's mission is to reawaken people more to the principles of nonviolence and the need to infuse spiritual values into the political system. So tonight we focus on The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, first published in 1993. It is an adventure novel that discusses various psychological and spiritual ideas rooted in multiple ancient Eastern traditions and New Age spirituality. The main character undertakes a journey in Peru to find and understand a series of 9 spiritual insights written in an ancient manuscript. After struggling to find a publisher who was willing to publish the book straight away, Redfield published it himself in 1993, filling the boot of his car with copies to distribute in bookshops, meeting readers and talking about the book. After that, word-of-mouth recommendations took care of everything else. It sold not because of any publicity, but because others began to give it to their friends everywhere. Since 1994, when Warner Books published The Celestine Prophecy in hardcover, this adventure parable became one of the modern publishing's greatest success stories. According to Publishing Trends, The Celestine Prophecy was the #1 international bestseller of 1996, #2 in 1995, and in 1995 and 1996 it was the #1 American book in the world. This phenomenal novel spent over 3 years on the New York Times bestseller list and also appeared on bestseller lists around the world. Was even turned into a film in 2006, although it did not receive rave reviews. Using an adventure parable approach that has been called part Indiana Jones, part Scott Peck, the Celestine prophecy created a model for spiritual perception and actualization that resonated with millions of people and focused on the mysterious coincidences that occur in each of our lives. Redfield then completed the insights with 3 more books in the series: The 10th Insight, The Secret of Shambhala, and The 12th Insight. In this presentation, I will focus on the spiritual messages of the 9 insights in the Celestine prophecy and leave the adventure story for you to discover when you read the book. The manuscript, which describes the insights, dates back to about 600 BC, written in the ancient language of Aramaic, the same language in which much of the Old Testament was written. It predicts a massive transformation in human society in the last decades of the 20th century. It's a kind of renaissance in consciousness occurring very slowly. It is not religious in nature, but it is spiritual. We are discovering something new about human life on this planet, about what our existence means, and this knowledge will alter human culture dramatically. The manuscript predicts that in this time period, human beings will begin to grasp these insights sequentially, one insight, then another, as we move from where we are now to a completely spiritual culture on Earth. The transformation begins with the first insight. This insight always surfaces unconsciously at first as a profound sense of restlessness. We begin to glimpse an alternative kind of experience, moments in our lives that feel different somehow, more intense and inspiring, but we don't know what this experience is or how to make it last. And when it ends, we're feeling dissatisfied and restless with a life that seems ordinary again. This restless searching is what's behind the me first attitude that has characterized recent decades. And it is affecting everyone, from Wall Street to street gangs. And when it comes to relationships, we are so demanding that we are making them near impossible. When both partners in a relationship are overly demanding, when each expects the other to live in his or her world, to always be there to join in his or her chosen activities, an ego battle inevitably develops. Because of this control battle, we will find it very difficult to stay with the same person for any length of time. While most of society's recent ills can be traced to this restlessness and searching, this problem is temporary and will come to an end. We're finally becoming conscious of what we're actually looking for, of what this other, more fulfilling experience really is. When we grasp it fully, we'll have attained the first insight. The first insight occurs when we become conscious of the coincidences in our lives. These coincidences are happening more and more frequently, and when they do, they strike us as beyond what would be expected by pure chance. They feel destined, as though our lives have been guided by some unexplained force. The experience induces a feeling of mystery and excitement, and as a result, we feel more alive. More people every day are convinced that this mysterious movement is real and that it means something, that something else is going on beneath everyday life. This awareness is the first insight. Certainly, this consciousness has been experienced and described before. Individuals have been aware of these unexplained coincidences throughout history. That this has been the perception behind many great attempts at philosophy and religion. But the difference now lies in the numbers. The transformation is occurring now because of the number of individuals having this awareness all at the same time. The manuscript says the number of people who are conscious of such coincidences would begin to grow dramatically in the 6th decade of the 20th century. This growth would continue until sometime near the beginning of the following century, when we would reach a specific level of such individuals, a level of critical mass. We will wonder, en masse, what mysterious process underlies human life on this planet? And it will be this question asked at the same time by enough people that will allow the other insights to also come into consciousness. Because according to the manuscript, when sufficient number of individuals seriously question what's going on in life, we will begin to find out. The other insights will be revealed one after the other. The second insight is a more correct interpretation of recent history, one that further clarifies the transformation. Our experience validates what the manuscript says. When we truly reflect on how we feel inside, on how our lives are proceeding at this point in history, we can see that the ideas in the manuscript make sense, that they ring true. History is not just the evolution of technology. It is the evolution of thought. By understanding the reality of the people who came before us, we can see why we look at the world the way we do, and what our contribution is to further progress. The effect of the second insight is to provide exactly this kind of historical perspective, at least from the point of view of Western thought. The second insight puts our current awareness into a longer historical perspective. After all, when the decade of the 90s is over, we'll be finishing up not only the 20th century, but a 1,000-year period of history as well. We'll be completing the entire second millennium. Before we in the West can understand where we are, what is going to occur next, we must understand what has already been happening during this current 1,000-year period. At the close of the second millennium, that's now, we will be able to see that entire period of history as a whole, and we will identify a particular preoccupation that developed during the latter half of this millennium in what has been called the modern age. Our awareness of the coincidences today represents a kind of awakening from this preoccupation. Imagine yourself being alive in the year 1000, in what we call the Middle Ages. The first thing you must understand is that the reality of this time is being defined by the powerful churchmen of the Christian Church. Because of their position, these men hold great influence over the minds of the populace. And the world these churchmen describe as real is, above all, spiritual. They are creating a reality which places their idea about God's plan for mankind at the very center of life. Visualize this. You find yourself in the class of your father, essentially peasant or aristocrat, and you know that you will always be confined to this class. But regardless of which class you're in or the particular work that you do, you soon realize that social position is secondary to the spiritual reality of life as defined by the churchmen. Life is about passing a spiritual test. The churchmen explain that God has placed mankind at the center of his universe, surrounded by the entire cosmos, for one solitary purpose: to win or lose salvation. And in this trial, you must correctly choose between two opposing forces: the force of God and the lurking temptations of the devil. As a mere individual, you are not qualified to determine your status in this regard. This is the province of the churchmen. They are there to interpret the scriptures and to tell you every step of the way whether you are in accordance with God or whether you are being duped by Satan. If you follow their instructions, you are assured that a rewarding afterlife will follow. But if you fail to heed the course they prescribe, then there is excommunication and certain damnation. The manuscript says that every aspect of the medieval world is defined in otherworldly terms. For now, you completely believe the churchmen. The world you take for granted operates solely by spiritual means. The medieval world begins to fall apart in the 14th and 15th centuries. First, you notice certain improprieties on the part of the churchmen themselves, secretly violating their vows of chastity, or taking gratuities to look the other way when government officials violate scriptural laws. Suddenly, you are in the midst of an outright rebellion. A group led by Martin Luther is calling for a complete break from papal Christianity. The churchmen are corrupt, they say, demanding an end to the churchmen's reign over the minds of the people. New churches are being formed based on the idea that each person should be able to have access to the scriptures personally and to interpret them as they wish, with no middlemen. The rebellion succeeds. Consequently, the whole world is being thrown into question. By the 1600s, astronomers have proved beyond doubt that the sun and stars did not revolve around the earth as maintained by the church. Clearly, the earth was only one small planet orbiting a minor sun in a galaxy that contained billions of such stars. All the things you took for granted now need new definition, especially the nature of God and the relationship to God. With that awareness, the modern age begins. There is a growing democratic spirit and a mass distrust of papal and royal authority. Definitions of the universe based on speculation or scriptural faith are no longer automatically accepted. The thinkers of the day thought that we needed a method of consensus building, a way to systematically explore this new world of ours. And you would have called this new way of discovering reality the scientific method, which is nothing more than testing an idea about how the universe works, arriving afterward at some conclusion, and then offering this conclusion to others to see if they agree. Then explorers go out into this new universe, each armed with the scientific method, with a historic mission. Explore this place and find out how it works and what it means that we find ourselves alive here, and report back. At this point, we began the preoccupation from which we are awakening now. We sent these explorers out to bring back a complete explanation of our existence, but because of the complexity of the universe, they weren't able to return right away. When the scientific method couldn't bring back a new picture of God and of mankind's purpose on the planet, the lack of certainty and meaning affected Western culture deeply. We needed something else to do until our questions were answered. Eventually, we arrived at what seemed to be a very logical solution. We looked at each other and said, well, since our explorers have not yet returned with our true spiritual situation, why not settle into this new world of ours while we are waiting? We are certainly learning enough to manipulate this new world for our own benefit. So why not work in the meantime to raise our standard of living, our sense of security in the world? And that's what we did 4 centuries ago. We shook off our feeling of being lost by taking matters into our own hands, by focusing on conquering the earth and using its resources to better our situation. And only now, as we approach the end of the millennium, can we see what happened. Our focus gradually became a preoccupation. We totally lost ourselves in creating a secular security, an economic security, to replace the spiritual one we had lost. The question of why we were alive, of what was actually going on here spiritually, was slowly pushed aside and repressed altogether. Working to establish a more comfortable style of survival has grown to feel complete in and of itself, as a reason to live. And we've gradually, methodically, forgotten our original question. We've forgotten that we still don't know what we're surviving for. Now, however, we've spent enough time settling into the world. It's time now to wake up from the preoccupation and reconsider our original question. What's behind life on this planet? Why are we really here? The remainder of the insights represent the answers finally coming back. But they aren't just coming back from institutional science. The findings of physics, psychology, mysticism, and religion are all coming together into a new synthesis based on a perception of the coincidences. We're learning the details of what the coincidences mean, how they work, and as we do, we're constructing a whole new view of life, insight by insight. The third insight describes a new understanding of the physical world. It says we humans will learn to perceive what was formerly an invisible type of energy. 2 investigations occurred which opened our eyes again to the mysteries in the universe. Those of quantum mechanics and those of Albert Einstein. The whole of Einstein's life's work was to show that what we perceive as hard matter is mostly empty space, with a pattern of energy running through it. And what quantum physics has shown is that when we look at these patterns of energy at smaller and smaller levels, startling results can be seen. Experiments have revealed that when we break apart small aspects of this energy, what we call elementary particles, and try to observe how they operate, the act of observation itself alters the results, as if these elementary particles are influenced by what the experimenter expects. This is true even if the particles must appear in places they couldn't possibly go, given the laws of the universe as we know them. 2 places at the same moment, forward or backward in time. In other words, the basic stuff of the universe at its core is looking like a kind of pure energy that is malleable to human intention and expectation in a way that defies our old mechanistic model of the universe. As though our expectation itself causes our energy to flow out into the world and affect other energy systems. The human perception of this energy first begins with a heightened sensitivity to beauty. The perception of beauty is a kind of barometer telling each of us how close we are to actually perceiving the energy. This is clear because once you observe this energy, you realize it's on the same continuum as beauty. The things that we perceive as beautiful, but the actual characteristics we ascribe to beautiful objects are similar. When something strikes us as beautiful, it displays more presence and sharpness of shape and vividness of colour. It stands out. It shines. This energy is what science has always been looking for. Some common stuff underlying all matter. Since Einstein particularly, physics has sought a unified field theory. The existence of this energy is not that foreign, actually. Karate masters have talked about an underlying chi energy, responsible for their seemingly impossible stunts of breaking bricks with their hands, and of being able to sit in one place unmoved with 4 men trying to push them over. And we've all seen athletes make spectacular moves, twisting, turning, hanging in the air in ways that defy gravity. It's all the result of this hidden energy that we have access to. To start to see energy, lean back and touch the tips of your index fingers together. Keep the blue sky in the background. Now separate the tips about 1 inch and look at the area directly between them. Take your eyes out of focus a little and move the tips closer, then further apart until you see something like strands of smoke stretching between the tips. Seeing energy fields is just a matter of waking up dormant receptors, something that everyone theoretically can do. To what extent does the physical universe as a whole, since it is made up of the same basic energy, respond to our expectations? To what extent do our expectations create all the things that happen to us? The old Newtonian idea is that nothing happens by chance, that one can make good decisions and be prepared, but that every event has its own line of causation, independent of our attitude. Perhaps the universe runs mechanistically as a basic operation, but then also subtly responds to the mental energy we project out into it. If we can make plants grow faster, maybe we can make certain events come faster or slower, depending on how we think. Seeing the energy, grasping this new way of perceiving the physical world, grows through a kind of contagion. We don't understand it, but when a person hangs out with others who see this energy, usually they begin to see it too. The third insight elaborates on the nature of beauty, describing this perception as the one through which humans would eventually learn to observe energy fields. Once this observed, then our understanding of the physical universe would transform. For instance, we would begin to eat more foods which were still alive with this energy. And we would become conscious that certain localities radiate more energy than others, the highest radiation coming from the old natural environments, especially forests. How humans compete for energy is the fourth insight. Eventually, humans would see the universe as comprised of one dynamic energy, an energy that can sustain us and respond to our expectations. Yet we would also see that we have been disconnected from the larger source of this energy, that we have cut ourselves off and so have felt weak and insecure and lacking. In the face of this deficit, we humans have always sought to increase our personal energy in the only manner we have known, by seeking to psychologically steal it from others, an unconscious competition that underlies all human conflict in the world. When an individual walks up to another person and engages in a conversation, which happens billions of times each day in the world, one of 2 things can happen. That individual can come away feeling stronger or feeling weak, depending on what occurs in the interaction. For this reason, we humans always seem to take a manipulative posture, No matter what the particulars of the situation, we humans seek to outwit and control each other, not just because of some tangible goal in the outside world that we're trying to achieve, but because of a lift we get psychologically. This is the reason we see so many irrational conflicts in the world, both at the individual level and at the level of nations. The movement of this energy, if we can systematically observe it, is a way to understand what humans are receiving when we compete and argue and harm each other. When we control another human being, we receive their energy. It builds us up somehow, makes us feel better. We fill up at the other's expense, and the filling up is what motivates us. Although occasionally it works differently. We meet someone who, at least for a little while, will voluntarily send their energy to make us feel empowered. But this gift doesn't usually last. Most people aren't strong enough to keep giving energy. That's why most relationships eventually turn into power struggles. Humans link up energy and then fight over who is going to control it. And the loser always pays the price. The fourth insight points out that for a long time, we humans have been unconsciously competing for the only part of this energy we have been open to, the part that flows between people. This is what human conflict has always been about at every level, from all the petty conflict in families and employment settings to wars between nations. It's the result of feeling insecure and weak and having to steal someone else's energy to feel okay. The whole matter is now emerging into public consciousness. We humans are realizing how much we manipulate each other, and consequently, we're re-evaluating our motivation. We're looking for another way to interact. Understanding the fourth insight is a matter of seeing the human world as a vast competition for energy and thus for power. Once we humans understand our struggle, we would immediately begin to transcend this conflict. We would begin to break free from the competition over mere human energy, because we would finally be able to receive our energy from another source. The fifth insight speaks about our ability to receive our energy from another source through a new understanding of what has long been called mystical consciousness. During the last decades of the 20th century, this consciousness would become publicized as a way of being that is actually attainable, a way that had been demonstrated by the more esoteric practitioners of many religions. For most, this consciousness would remain an intellectual concept, to be only talked of and debated. But for a growing number of humans, this consciousness would become experientially real, because these individuals would experience flashes or glimpses of this state of mind during the course of their lives. The manuscript said that this experience was the key to ending human conflict in the world, because during this experience, we are receiving energy from another source, a source we will eventually learn to tap at will. Food is the first way of gaining energy. The food must be appreciated, savored. We must appreciate taste. This is the reason for prayer before eating. It's not just about being thankful, it is to make eating a holy experience, so the energy from the food can enter your body. After personal energy is increased in this way, you become more sensitive to energy in all things, and then you learn to take this energy into yourself without eating. Everything around us has energy, but each has its own special kind. That's why some places increase energy more than others. Depends on how your shape fits with the energy there. You have to be open to connect to use your sense of appreciation. But you take this one step further so that you get the sensation of being filled up. The feeling is love. You do not make yourself love, you allow love to enter you. When you appreciate the beauty and uniqueness of things, you receive energy. When you get to a level where you feel love, then you can send the energy back just by willing it so. Love is not something we should do to be good or to make the world a better place out of some abstract moral responsibility. Connecting with energy feels like excitement, then euphoria, and then love. Finding enough energy to maintain that state of love certainly helps the world, but it most directly helps us. When one has already encountered a mystical experience, getting back into this state and raising one's personal energy level comes much easier. A strong memory of the experience facilitates its recreation. After that, one slowly builds back a little at a time to begin a progression back toward that ultimate consciousness. But to do this, we must learn to consciously fill up with energy, because this energy brings on the coincidences, and the coincidences help us actualize the new level on a permanent basis. When something occurs beyond chance to lead us forward in our lives, then we become more actualized people. We feel as though we are attaining what destiny is leading us to become. When this occurs, the level of energy that brought on the coincidences in the first place is instituted in us. We can be knocked out of it and lose energy when we are afraid. But this level serves as a new outer limit which can be regained quite easily. We have become a new person. We exist at a level of higher energy, at a level of higher vibration. The process is that we fill up, grow, fill up, and grow again. That is how we as humans continue the evolution of the universe to a higher and higher vibration. This evolution has been going on unconsciously throughout human history. That explains why civilization has progressed and why humans have grown larger, lived longer. Now, however, we are making the whole process conscious. That is what this movement toward a worldwide spiritual consciousness is all about. But before we can connect with the energy on a permanent basis, there is one more hurdle we must pass. The next insight, the sixth, deals with this issue. The sixth insight tells us that we must face up to our particular way of controlling others. The key to letting go is to bring it fully into consciousness. And we do that by seeing that our particular style of controlling others is one we learned in childhood to get attention, to get the energy moving our way. And we're stuck there. This style is something we repeat over and over again. Our unconscious control dramas. It is one familiar scene, like a scene in a movie, for which we write the script as youths. Then we repeat this scene over and over in our daily lives without being aware of it. All we know is that the same kind of events happen to us repeatedly. The problem is, if we are repeating one particular scene over and over, then the other scenes of our real life movie, the high adventure marked by coincidences, can't go forward. We stop the movie when we repeat this one drama in order to manipulate for energy. The first step in the process of getting clear for each of us is to bring our particular control drama into full consciousness. Each of us must go back into our early family life and see how this habit was formed. Seeing its inception keeps our way of controlling in consciousness. Most of our family members were operating in a drama themselves, trying to pull energy out of us as children. This is why we had to form a control drama in the first place. We had to have a strategy to win energy back. It is always in relation to our family members that we develop our particular dramas. However, once we recognize the energy dynamics in our families, we can go past these control strategies and see what was really happening. Most of us have one dominant control drama that we tend to repeat, depending on which one worked well on the members of our early family. The order of dramas goes this way: intimidator, interrogator, aloof, and poor me. The intimidator, if someone threatens you, either verbally or physically, then you are forced, for fear of something bad happening to you, to pay attention to him and so to give him energy. The interrogator, if a person is subtle in their aggression, finding fault and slowly undermining your world in order to get your energy, then this person would be an interrogator. The aloof, if a person withdraws and looks mysterious and secretive, they hope someone will be pulled into this drama and will try to figure out what is going on. When someone does, they remain vague, forcing the other to struggle and dig and try to discern their true feelings and give their energy. Poor me, if someone tells you all the horrible things that are already happening to them, implying that perhaps you are responsible and that if you refuse to help, these horrible things are going to continue, then this person is seeking control at the most passive level. Each person must reinterpret his family experience from an evolutionary point of view, from a spiritual point of view, and discover who he really is. Once we do that, our control drama falls away and our real lives take off. We are free to become more than the unconscious act we play. We can find a higher meaning for our lives, a spiritual reason we were born to our particular families. We can begin to get clear about who we really are. The process of finding your true spiritual identity involves looking at your whole life as one long story, trying to find a higher meaning. Begin by asking yourself this question: why was I born to this particular family? What might have been the purpose for that? We were not merely the physical creation of our parents, we were also the spiritual creation. You were born to these two people and their lives had an irrevocable effect on who you are. To discover your real self, you must admit that the real you began in a position between their truths. That's why you were born there, to take a higher perspective on what they stood for. Your path is about discovering a truth that is a higher synthesis of what these two people believed. If you view your life as one story from birth to right now, you'll be able to see how you have been working on this question all along. Humans are born into their historical situations and find something to stand for. They form a union with another human being who also has found some purpose. The children born to this union then reconcile these two positions by pursuing a higher synthesis. guided by the coincidences. Our children take our level of vibration and raise it even higher. This is how we as humans continue evolution. The difference now with this generation is that we are ready to do it consciously and to accelerate the process. Once you learn what life is all about, there is no way to erase the knowledge. If you try to do something else with your life, you will always sense that you are missing something. The seventh insight deals with the process of consciously evolving yourself, or staying alert to every coincidence, every answer the universe provides for you. To grasp the seventh insight and truly enter the movement of evolution, one must pull all the insights into one way of being. When you give up your control drama, as you fill up with inner energy, other kinds of thoughts enter your mind from a higher part of yourself. These are your intuitions. They just appear in the back of your mind, sometimes in a kind of daydream or mini vision, and they come to direct you, to guide you. When you have acquired enough energy, you are ready to consciously engage evolution, to start it flowing, to produce the coincidences that will lead you forward. Your body is vibrating at a certain level. If you let your energy get too low, your body suffers. That is the relationship between stress and disease. Love is the way we keep our vibration up. It keeps us healthy. It is that important. So let me offer you the way that I personally gain energy. The first thing I do is to focus on the environment around me. Then I try to remember how everything looks when I'm being filled with energy. I do this by recalling the presence everything displays, the unique beauty and shape of everything, especially plants, and the way colors seem to glow and appear brighter. To regain this buoyancy, I try to breathe in the energy with which I've just connected. Then I try to experience that feeling of closeness, the feeling that no matter how far away something is, that I can touch it, connect with it, and then breathe it in. I try to breathe in the energy with which I have just connected. When we visualize that each breath pulls energy into us and fills us like a balloon, we actually become more energized and feel much lighter and more buoyant. And after I breathe in the energy, I check to see if I have the right emotion of love, which is the true measure of whether I'm really connected. It is a background emotion that exists when one is connected to the energy available in the universe, which is the energy of God. First, you build sufficient energy. Then you remember your basic life question, the ones your parents gave you, because this question provides the overall context for your evolution. Next, you center yourself on your path by discovering the immediate, smaller questions that currently confront you in life. These questions always pertain to your larger question and define where you currently are in your lifelong quest. Once you become conscious of the questions active in the moment, you always get some kind of intuitive direction of what to do, of where to go. You get a hunch about the next step, always. The only time this will not occur is when you have the wrong question in mind. The problem in life isn't receiving answers. The problem is in identifying your current questions. Once you get the questions right, the answers always come. After you get an intuition of what might happen next, then the next step is to become very alert and watchful. Sooner or later, coincidences will occur to move you in the direction indicated by the intuition. Each time that these coincidences lead us into something new, we grow. We become fuller persons, existing at a higher vibration. Now that you've become clear, you can become super conscious of this evolution by defining your current question and then watching the answers come. Remember to stop as often as necessary to reconnect your energy. Stay full. Stay in a state of love. Once you achieve this state of love, nothing nor anyone can pull more energy from you than you can replace. In fact, the energy flowing out of you creates a current that pulls energy into you at the same rate. You can never run out, but you must stay conscious of this process in order for it to work. This is especially important when you interact with people. Let your perception of beauty and iridescence lead the way. Places and people who have answers for you will appear more luminous and attractive. The seventh insight also talks about dreams. Dreams come to tell us something about our lives that we are missing. Also, thoughts or daydreams guide us. They show us a scene, a happening, and this is the indication that this event might happen. If we pay attention, then we can be ready for this turn in our lives. We all have many more thoughts than we realize. To recognize them, we must take an observer position. When a thought comes, we must ask, why? Why did this particular thought come now? How does it relate to my life questions? Taking this observer position helps us release our need to control everything. It places us in the flow of evolution. The seventh insight says that fear images should be halted as soon as they come. Then another image, one with a good outcome, should be willed through the mind. Soon, negative images will almost never happen. Your intuitions will be about positive things. When negative images come after that, the manuscript says they should be taken very seriously. For instance, if the idea comes to you that you're going to have a wreck in a truck, and someone comes along and offers you a ride in a truck, then do not accept it. The seventh insight says that the challenge is to find the silver lining in every event, no matter how negative. The eighth insight is about humans, of how humans will eventually learn to relate to each other, and talks of many things, such as how to project energy to others and how to avoid addictions to people. The eighth insight explains how we can aid others as they bring us the answers we seek. It also describes the whole new interpersonal ethic, the way of treating other people, so more messages are shared. All the answers that mysteriously come to us really come from other people. Even the manuscript was written by a person. But not all the people you meet will have the energy or the clarity to reveal the message they have for you. You must help them by sending them energy. When the energy goes into them, it helps them see their truth. Then they can give this truth to you. Begins at the beginning with children. We should view them as they really are, as endpoints in evolution that lead us forward. But in order to learn to evolve, they need our energy on a constant basis, unconditionally. The worst thing that can be done to children is to drain their energy while correcting them. This is what creates control dramas in them. But these learned manipulations on the child's part can be avoided if the adults give them all the energy they need, no matter what the situation. That is why they should always be included in conversations, especially conversations about them. We should always find a way to tell a child the truth. And you should never take responsibility for more children than you can give attention to. And the point about the number of children is highly stressed because any one adult can only focus on and give attention to one child at a time. If there are too many children for the number of adults, then the adults become overwhelmed and unable to give enough energy. The children begin to compete with each other for the adults' time. Problem is more important than people think. Adults often glamorize the idea of large families and children growing up together. But children should learn the world from adults, not from other children. In too many cultures, children are running in gangs. The manuscript says that humans will slowly understand that they should not bring children into the world unless there is at least one adult committed to focus full attention all of the time on each child. Humans will learn to extend their families beyond blood ties so that someone else is able to provide one-on-one attention. All the energy does not have to come from the parents alone. In fact, it is better it does not. But whoever cares for the children must provide this one-on-one attention. The eighth insight also warns that when one first learns to be clear and to engage one's evolution, any of us can be stopped suddenly by an addiction to another person. The idea of an addiction explains why power struggles arise in romantic relationships. We've always wondered what causes the bliss and euphoria of love to end, to suddenly turn into conflict, and now we know. It is the result of the flow of energy between the individuals involved. When love first happens, the two individuals are giving each other energy unconsciously, and both people feel buoyant and elated. That's the incredible high we all call being in love. Unfortunately, once they expect this feeling to come from the other person, they cut themselves off from the energy in the universe and begin to rely even more on the energy from each other. Only now, there doesn't seem to be enough. And so they stop giving each other energy and fall back into their dramas in an attempt to control each other and force the other's energy their way. At this point, the relationship degenerates into the usual power struggle. The problem starts in our early family. Because of the energy competition there, none of us were able to complete an important psychological process. We weren't able to integrate our opposite sexual side. The reason we can become addicted to someone of the opposite sex is that we've yet to access this opposite sex energy ourselves. The mystical energy we can tap as an inner source is both male and female. We can eventually open up to it, but when we first begin to evolve, we have to be careful. The integration process takes some time. If we connect prematurely with a human source for our female or male energy, we block the universal supply. In any family, the child must first receive energy from the adults in his life. Usually, identifying with and integrating the energy of the same-sexed parent is accomplished easily. But receiving energy from the other parent can be more difficult because of the difference in the sexes. The problem is that most parents, up to now, have been competing with their children for energy, and that has affected all of us. Because this competition was taking place, none of us have quite resolved this opposite sex issue. We're all stuck at the stage where we are still looking for our opposite sex energy outside of ourselves, in the person of a male or female we can think of as ideal and magical, and we can possess sexually. According to the eighth insight, when we first begin to evolve, we automatically begin to receive our opposite sex energy. It comes naturally from the energy in the universe, but we must be careful, because if another person comes along who offers this energy directly, we can cut ourselves off from the true source and regress. But we are waking up now. No one wants to be subservient to anyone else any longer. We have to stabilize our channel with the universe. That takes time. But afterward, we are never susceptible to this problem again, and we can have what the manuscript calls a higher relationship. When we connect romantically with another whole person after that, we create a super person, but it never pulls us from the path of our individual evolution. You must have a relationship only with people who will reveal themselves totally, telling you how and why they are doing what they are doing, just as this would have happened with the opposite-sexed parents during an ideal childhood. By understanding who these opposite-sexed friends really are on the inside, one breaks past one's own fantasy projection about that gender, and that releases us to connect again with the universe. The idea is to begin to experience that sense of well-being and euphoria experienced in the first moment of a codependent relationship, when you are alone. After that, you evolve forward, and you can find that special romantic relationship that really fits you. The manuscript says that whenever people cross our paths, there is always a message for us. Chance encounters do not exist. But how we respond to these encounters determines whether we're able to receive the message. If we have a conversation with someone who crosses our path and we do not see a message pertaining to our current questions, it does not mean there was no message. It only means we missed it for some reason. Instead, in that situation, we should stop what we are doing, no matter what, and find out the message we have for that person and that the person has for us. The manuscript predicts that once humans grasp this reality, our interaction will slow down, become more purposeful and deliberate. The more we can love and appreciate others, the more energy flows into us. That's why loving and energizing others is the best possible thing we can do for ourselves. 2 or more people doing this together can reach incredible highs as they build one another up and have it immediately returned. This connection is completely different from a codependent relationship. Real projection of energy has no attachment or intention. Both people are just waiting for the messages. The person we are speaking with is already operating in a control drama and trying to pull us into it. The manuscript says if we do not assume the matching drama, then the person's own drama will fall apart. Covert manipulation for energy cannot exist if you bring them into consciousness by pointing them out. It is a very simple method. The best truth about what's going on in a conversation always prevails. After that, the person has to be more real and honest. The key to making it work is to simultaneously look beyond the drama at the real person in front of you and send as much energy their way as possible. If they can feel energy coming in anyway, then it's easier for them to give up their way of manipulating for it. The manuscript says, we will learn that sudden, spontaneous eye contact is a sign that two people should talk. It also says that a sense of recognition, seeing someone who looks familiar, even though you know you've never seen the person before, says that we are members of the same thought group with certain other people. Thought groups are usually evolving along the same lines of interest. We intuitively recognize members of our thought group, and very often they provide messages for us. If we are observant about who to talk with, then we get the answers we desire as a result. Part of the 8th insight is learning to interact consciously when in a group. But don't get self-conscious, just understand the process. As the members of a group talk, only one will have the most powerful idea at any one point in time. If they are alert, the others in the group can feel who is about to speak. And then they can consciously focus their energy on this person, helping to bring out his idea with the greatest clarity. Then, as the conversation proceeds, someone else will have the most powerful idea, then someone else, and so forth. If you concentrate on what is being said, you can feel when it is your turn. The idea will come up in your mind. The key to this process is to speak up when it is your moment and to project energy when it is someone else's time. In a truly functional group, the idea is for every member's energy and vibration to increase because of the energy sent by all of the others. When this occurs, everyone's individual energy field merges with everyone else's and makes one pool of energy. It is as if the group is just one body, but one with many heads. Each individual knows when to speak and what to say because he truly sees life more clearly. This is the higher person. The 9th insight tells us where it is all going to lead and how human society will change. This way of consciously relating, in which everyone attempts to bring out the best in others rather than to have power over them, is a posture the entire human race will eventually adopt. Think of how everyone's energy level and pace of evolution will increase at that point. The 9th insight explains how human culture will change in the next millennium as a result of conscious evolution. It describes a significantly different way of life. For instance, the manuscript predicts that we humans will voluntarily decrease our population so that we all may live in the most powerful and beautiful places on the earth. More of these areas will exist in the future because we will intentionally let the forests go uncut so that they can mature and build energy. By the middle of the next millennium, humans will typically live among 500-year-old trees and carefully tended gardens, yet within easy travel distance of an urban area of incredible technological wizardry. By then, the means of survival, foodstuffs and clothing and transportation will all be totally automated and at everyone's disposal. Our needs will be completely met without the exchange of any currency, yet also without any overindulgence or laziness. Guided by their intuitions, everyone will know precisely what to do and when to do it, and this will fit harmoniously with the action of others. No one will consume excessively because we will have to let go of the need to possess and to control for security. In the next millennium, life will become about something else. Our sense of purpose will be satisfied by the thrill of our own evolution, by the elation of receiving intuitions and then watching closely as our destinies unfold. The ninth insight depicts a human world where everyone has slowed down and become more alert, ever vigilant for the next meaningful encounter that comes along. We will know that it could occur anywhere, on a path that winds through a forest, for instance, or on a bridge that traverses some canyon. Think how it would be for two people meeting for the first time. Each will first observe the other's energy field, exposing any manipulations. Once clear, they will consciously share life stories until elatedly messages are discovered. Afterward, each will go forward again on their individual journey, but they will be significantly altered. They will vibrate at a new level and will thereafter touch others in a way not possible before their meeting. The real reason we spent 5 centuries creating material supports for human life was to set the stage for something else, a way of life that returns the mystery to existence. That is what the information now returning from the scientific method indicates. Mankind is on this planet to consciously evolve. And as we learn to evolve and pursue our particular path, truth by truth, the ninth insight says the overall culture will transform in a very predictable way. Once we reach the critical mass and the insights begin to come in on a global scale, the human race will first experience a period of intense introspection. We'll grasp how beautiful and spiritual the natural world really is. We'll see trees and rivers and mountains as temples of great power, to be held in reverence and awe. We'll demand an end to any economic activity that threatens this treasure. And those closest to this situation will find alternative solutions to this pollution problem, because someone will intuit these alternatives as they seek their own evolution. This will be part of the first great shift that will occur, which will be a dramatic movement of individuals from one occupation to another, because when people begin to receive clear intuitions of who they really are and what they're supposed to be doing, they very often discover they're in the wrong job. And they have to jump to another type of work in order to continue to grow. During this period, people will sometimes change careers several times during their lifetimes. The next cultural shift will be an automation of the production of goods. To the people who are doing the automating, the technicians, this will feel like a need to make the economy run more efficiently. But as their intuitions become clearer, they will see that what automation is actually doing is freeing up everyone's time so that we can pursue other endeavors. The rest of us, meanwhile, will be following our own intuitions within our chosen occupations and wishing we had even more of this free time. We will realize that the truth we have to tell and the things we have to do are too unique to fit within a usual job setting. So we will find ways to cut our employment hours to pursue our truth. 2 or 3 people will hold what used to be one full-time job. This trend will make it easier for those displaced by the automation to find at least part-time jobs. Our incomes will remain stable because of the people who are giving us money for the insights we provide. As we discover more about the energy dynamics of the universe, we will see what really happens when we give someone something. Giving is really a universal principle of support for everyone. When we give, we receive in return because of the way energy interacts in the universe. Remember, when we project energy into someone, this creates a void in ourselves, which, if we are connected, fills up again. Money works exactly the same way. Once we begin to give constantly, we will always have more coming in that we could possibly give away. And our gifts should go to the persons who have given us spiritual truth. When a person comes into our lives at just the right time to give us the answers we need, we should give them money. This is how we will begin to supplement our incomes and ease out of the occupations which limit us. As more people engage in this spiritual economy, we will begin a real shift into the culture of the next millennium. We will have moved through the stage of evolving into our right occupation, and will be entering the stage of getting paid for evolving freely and offering our unique truth to others. If we are correctly following our intuitive guidance, then we will take only what we need. The 9th insight says that as the human race evolves spiritually, we will voluntarily decrease the population to a point sustainable by Earth. We will be committed to living within the natural energy systems of the planet. Farming will be automated, except for the plants one wants to energize personally and then consume. The trees necessary for construction will be grown in special designated areas. This will free the remainder of the Earth's trees to grow and age and finally mature into powerful forests. Eventually, these forests will be the rule rather than the exception, and all human beings will live in close proximity to this kind of power. Think what an energy-filled world we will live in. I was alert to the mysterious way my life evolved. As revealed in the first insight, I knew that the whole culture was sensing this mystery again as well, and we were in the process of constructing a new world view, as pointed out by the second. The third and fourth had showed me that the universe was in reality a vast system of energy, and that human conflict was a shortage of and a manipulation for this energy. The fifth insight revealed that we could end this conflict by receiving an inpouring of this energy from a higher source. The sixth, that we could clear our old repeated dramas and find our true selves, was also permanently etched in my mind. And the seventh had set in motion the evolution of these true selves through question, intuition of what to do, and answer. Staying in this magic flow was truly the secret of happiness, and the eighth, knowing how to relate in a new way to others, bring out in them the very best, was the key to keeping the mystery operating and the answers coming. All the insights had integrated into a consciousness that felt like a heightened sense of alertness and expectation. The truth is a synthesis of the scientific and religious worldviews. The truth is that evolution is the way God created and is still creating. The manuscript would clarify many religions and would help them fulfill their promise. All religion, it says, is about humankind finding relationship to one higher source. And all religions speak of a perception of God within, a perception that fills us, makes us more than we are, than we were. Religions become corrupted when leaders are assigned to explain God's will to the people, instead of showing them how to find this direction within themselves. The ninth reveals our ultimate destiny. It makes it all crystal clear. It reiterates that as humans, we are the culmination of the whole of evolution. Now we're bringing this whole process into consciousness. We can see that all of human history has prepared us to achieve conscious evolution. Now we can increase our energy and experience the coincidences consciously. This carries evolution onward at a faster pace, lifting our vibrations even higher. Our destiny is to continue to increase our energy level. And as our energy level increases, the level of vibration in the atoms of our bodies increases. It means we are getting lighter, more purely spiritual. The ninth insight says that as we humans continue to increase our vibration, an amazing thing will begin to happen. Whole groups of people, once they reach a certain level, will suddenly become invisible to those who are still vibrating at a lower level. It will appear to the people at this lower level that the others just disappeared. But the group themselves will feel as though they are still right here, only they will feel lighter. When humans begin to raise their vibrations to a level where others cannot see them, it will signal that we are crossing the barrier between this life and the other world from which we came and to which we go after death. At some point, everyone will vibrate high enough so that we can walk into heaven in our same form. Some cultures in history have already achieved the vibration. According to the ninth insight, the Mayans crossed over together. The ninth insight says that a general rapture will not occur until we have abolished fear, until we can maintain a sufficient vibration in all situations. The ninth insight is the insight of knowing where we are headed. All the other insights create a picture of the world as one of incredible beauty and energy, and of ourselves as increasing our connection with and thus seeing this beauty. The more beauty we can see, the more we evolve. The more we evolve, the higher we vibrate. The ninth insight shows us that ultimately our increased perception and vibration will open us up to a heaven that is already before us. We just can't see it yet. Whenever we doubt our own path or lose sight of the process, we must remember that we are evolving what we are evolving toward, what the process of living is all about. Reaching heaven on earth is why we are here. And now we know how it can be done, how it will be done. Connecting with energy is something humans have to be open to talking about and expecting. Otherwise, the whole human race can go back to pretending that life is about having power over others and exploiting the planet. If we go back to doing this, then we won't survive. Each of us must do what we can to get this message out. And with that, we come to the end of the presentation of the Celestine prophecy. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next time.